Welcome to Tales from the Dark Side, hosted by me, best-selling author Conrad Jones. Tonight, the door creaks open, the lights grow dim, and you are invited into the shadows. Beyond this point lie disturbing events, twisted mysteries, and tales soaked in horror, some true, some even truer. Stories that crawl beneath your skin, whisper in the dark, and leave you questioning just how fragile your grip on reality really is. So grab yourself a brew, lock the doors, and listen carefully, because once the darkness descends, it may never leave. This is Tales from the Dark Side, and the nightmares are only just beginning. Hello and welcome to the very first Tales from the Dark Side. I'm Conrad Jones. If you've picked up one of my books over the years, you might know me as the author of gritty crime thrillers, psychological suspense, terrorism thrillers, and the occasional journey into the darker corners of horror. Since publishing my first novel, more than 3 million copies of my books have been downloaded around the world, and somehow, what started as a single story has grown into 40 novels and a cast of characters that readers still tell me that they can't forget. I forget them, because there's so many. They just seem to blur into one. But I didn't start out as a writer. I was born in Wiston Hospital and lived in Tarbock Green in Knowsley. It's a stretch of green belt between Liverpool and Widnes. I was educated at Liverpool College near Sefton Park, Liverpool city centre, and then finished off my education in Prescott. Like many people from my background, I left school and went straight into work. I spent time as a market trader, running my own business until my 20s, before joining McDonald's in 1989 as a training manager. Then came a day that changed everything. In 1993, I was managing the McDonald's restaurant on Bridge Street in Warrington, when 2 IRA bombs exploded outside. 2 young boys lost their lives that day. Many others were injured. It was a horrific event that left a lasting mark on everybody who witnessed it. For me, it sparked some questions. Questions about criminal behaviour. Questions about extremism. Questions about what drives ordinary people to commit extraordinary acts of violence. Those questions never really left me. In fact, they became the foundation of my first series of novels, the Soft Target series featuring the terrorist task force and its larger-than-life leader, John Tankersley. The tales from the dark side are going to range from different places across the country and with different characters, but the theme will always be the same. And the first story finds us in Liverpool. I hope you enjoy it. I think it's important first to set the scene, talk a little bit about the history of the area and what went on there and how that has had ramifications through the centuries to this very day. And it's all based around an area of Liverpool which anybody familiar with the city will be comfortable with talking about. And that's the crossroads on Edge Lane. So maybe about half a mile from the Rocket at the end of the M62, you come to a crossroads. On the right-hand side, there's a pub called the Paraffin Oil Lamp. It's not there anymore. To the left is Rathbone Road and a park. To the right is St Oswalds Road, which leads down into the old Swan. What's so special about this area? The park on the left-hand side, I have very fond memories of being a child and being a keen skateboarder. And there weren't many skateboard parks around in the late 70s. Rathbone Road was one of the first. And my parents used to take myself and my younger brother, who was 6 years younger than me, and they would drop us off on a Sunday morning at Rathbone Road skateboard park, and they would come and pick us up about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we'd spend all day in the park with our skateboards, cutting your knees and scuffing your hands and having great fun, completely unsupervised and feeling very, very grown up. And that skateboard park, believe it or not, is still there to a degree. It's in very poor condition nowadays. All the ramps have been taken away, but the concrete bowl is still there. The rest of the park's still there, and it's never been developed into much really but a green space. But beneath it is the history which I want to talk about, because beneath it is one of Liverpool City's plague pits. So Liverpool as a city has been visited by plague on 3 occasions, the biggest one being in the 1800s. And lots of people died, lots of people were dying. And of course, the first people who get impacted when you get a disease which spreads from person to person are the people who deal with them when they're sick, or the people that deal with the bodies when they're dead. So within a short period of time, the bodies were piling up, and the city realised it had no grave diggers because they'd picked up the disease and they were dead. So they had to employ whoever was still alive and able-bodied enough to be able to trawl the city with hand-push carts and find the dead bodies and bring them to the plague pits, Rathbone Road being one of them. Of course, this is a very tricky job, and you get paid by the number of bodies that you put into the pit. Some of these people that were hired, because they were the only ones still fit enough to push a cart, were unscrupulous characters. And so while they were going house to house to see if they could find dead bodies in the buildings, some of the people that they found weren't quite dead, but near enough. Near enough to put on a cart and for nobody to know any difference. And so once they'd trawled the city and filled up the cart with as much cargo as they could carry, they would then proceed to the plague pit there and tip their bodies and get paid for each body that was put into the pit. What's that got to do with anything? Well, it's my opinion, and in the opinion of others, that bad energy hangs around certain places. And a number of people who would have been put into that pit who weren't quite ready to leave this life, and they were dumped in there with dead bodies surrounding them without the energy or the ability to move or cry for help. And so that part of Liverpool has an energy around it, none of it good. And it's still there to this day, judging by the number of sightings and paranormal activity which happens in and around the city. It tends to stem and focus on that part of the city centre, moving outwards. On the opposite side of the crossroads is St Oswalds Road. Have you ever walked past a place so ordinary that you'd never suspect what lies beneath it? A church, a schoolyard, a patch of grass, or a park like Rathbone Road. Most of us do it every day. But in the autumn of 1973, beside St Oswald's Church in Old Swan, something happened there that still refuses to sit comfortably in history, with little to no explanation. The parish had begun work on a new school building. Excavators had moved in, and men dug into the clay. And then they hit wood. What they'd found was a coffin. The coffin was, its bricks and stones carry stories, its walls carry memory, but apparently its ground carried something else. When construction began, the parish priest, a Father McCartney, reportedly mentioned that there might be a few unmarked graves nearby. A few. A handful. Nothing unusual for old church land, but nobody expected this. Nobody expected a hidden city of the dead. The deeper the workers dug, the stranger it became. Coffins appeared in neat rows, carefully placed, methodically stacked. Not the hurried disposal of plague victims, not the chaos of catastrophe. The arrangement suggested planning. It suggested purpose. It suggested that somebody didn't want these people to be identified. Someone had taken great care to put these people in the ground at St. Oswald's Road. And then came the rain. Witnesses later described what happened next with visible discomfort. The water softened old timbers. Some of the coffins collapsed. One reportedly revealed the body of a young woman, astonishingly preserved after more than a century underground. There are pictures of it online. Google it. And there are pictures of the coffin and the poor young woman who spilled from the box. There aren't many pictures still in existence because they were removed. So along came the rain, and then exposure to the air began its work. The preservation vanished, and the bodies started to deteriorate before onlookers' eyes. Mud, rainwater, wood, cloth, human remains mixed together into a scene so disturbing that many workers reportedly lost their appetite entirely. Others were so disturbed that they never returned to the site. News of the discovery reached the authorities, and that is where the story takes an even stranger turn. A 10-foot security fence was erected around the site. Access became restricted. The press, despite hearing rumours of a massive burial discovery, published almost nothing. No headlines, no photographs splashed across the front pages, no national discussion, no investigations, just silence. Then came the instructions. The coffins and their contents were to be removed and cremated quickly. The remains would be reburied elsewhere, without names, without markers, without public ceremony. Construction halted for 18 months. And when work finally resumed, all the dead were gone.
Looking for your next dark obsession? Best-selling thriller author Conrad Jones has gripped over 3 million readers worldwide, with 38 brutal, fast-paced thrillers across 6 explosive series. From serial killers to organised crime and psychological terror, these books don't let you go. Search Conrad Jones on Amazon today, if you dare.
Naturally, people searched for explanations. Maybe it was disease. Liverpool had suffered cholera outbreaks, typhoid, dysentery. Entire communities had been devastated during the 19th century. Or perhaps it was the Irish famine, as they called it, which was typhus. Liverpool became the first destination for countless desperate refugees crossing the Irish Sea. Many arrived weakened by hunger. Many never survived long after reaching England. That theory makes sense. Were those people and the victims that typhus took put into boxes unmarked and buried? Or was there another reason? The Irish famine fits the timeline, it fits the tragedy. Yet one question remains. If these were ordinary victims of famine or disease, where are the records? Victorian Britain loved records. Births, deaths, workhouses, burials. Officials documented almost everything. Yet thousands of burials appear to have vanished from the paperwork. Or perhaps the paperwork vanished from us. 22 years later, in 1995, local historians attempted to obtain official information. According to community accounts, they received a remarkable response. No records existed. The event itself was effectively denied. The discovery, they were told, had never happened. But how do you erase something witnessed by workers, by clergy, by officials, by locals? How do you erase the people at the crematoriums? 3,000 coffins dug up and cremated. How can you deny that that happened? There are memories. People have recounted them. There are several photographs, but not many. How do you erase 3,561 coffins? And this is where history gives way to legend. Every mystery grows in its own mythology. Old Swan is no different. Some stories speak of secret societies operating beneath respectable appearances. Others whisper about forgotten relief shelters during times of famine. Places where society's poorest could disappear quietly. There are tales of organised burials conducted under the cover of darkness, of records deliberately withheld, of people considered too inconvenient to count. Most historians would dismiss such stories. There's little evidence, much speculation. And yet mysteries survive precisely because certainty does not. One local tale tells of a security guard walking the perimeter fence late one rainy evening. He noticed a figure standing among the excavated graves, motionless, watching. The guard called out, but there was no answer. The figure turned, and something about the face was wrong. Not absent, not hidden, just wrong. As though somebody had attempted to recreate a human face from memory and failed. The next morning the guard resigned and he never returned. True? Probably not. But every place keeps stories, urban myths, and sometimes stories grow where facts leave empty spaces. People speculate. Whatever happened beneath St. Oswalds, one truth remains. 3,561 people were buried there. They're not numbers, they're not statistics. They were people. They were people who laughed, people who worked, people who fell in love. They complained about the weather, they dreamed about tomorrow. People whose names are lost now. Whether they died from disease, famine, neglect, or something we still do not understand, they deserve at least one thing: to be remembered. So if you ever find yourself in Old Swan, stand for a moment beside St. Oswald's, listen to the traffic, look up at the spire, and think about the ground beneath your feet. Because history is not always written in books. Sometimes it's hidden underground, silent, patient, until a shovel finds it. And sometimes the things we forget are not gone at all. They're simply waiting for somebody to remember. Thank you for listening to the first of the Tales of the Dark Side by me, Conrad Jones.
You've been listening to Tales from the Dark Side with best-selling author Conrad Jones. This podcast is produced by me, Laura Raymond, with music from Stanley T. Jones. Find links to Conrad Jones's books and his Amazon page in the show notes of this podcast, or search on Amazon.